So you want to learn about flexibility, where today and for this week, we're going to be talking about a whole lot of different aspects that you're going to want to need to know. Today, why should you want to learn the splits? Do you want to learn the splits? If you don't want to, you should want to. And we're going to tell you why today.
What's up, everyone? In case this is your first time rolling with Team Unity, my name is Yanni Bormeister. To my left is Phil White, aka Switched On Physio, the world's best physio. And across the table, we're going to throw the ball over to the Radmeister. Behind the switcherboard, we've got Richie. Together, we are Unity Gym and the UMS. Now, if you guys want to learn a little bit about how we take driven people and turn them into absolute superhumans, you always have access to our biggest key takeaways and lessons. We update those documents regularly. Go to www.unitygym.com and download the blueprints, or have a look in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. What's up, Rad?
The sky, the lights above our heads, just doing the do. It's Tuesday. I'm excited about this one because this has been a journey for me. Flexibility has been a big passion of mine for a long time. And we get a lot of people asking about this stuff, so I think it's a really good one.
Yeah, that video on middle splits is that's the most popular.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
Let's have a look on YouTube. Last time I looked, it was pushing 350,000
that's
views, which is big for us. It's the biggest one that our channel has. So yeah, pretty cool. It's definitely a popular topic, isn't it?
The people love it.
The people love it. 362,000 now.
Nice.
Wow, it's cranking. If you haven't checked out that video, go to our YouTube channel and have a look how to do the side splits if you're not flexible.
There you go.
And why should you want to do the
why?
side splits? That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. And I think this is this is a topic close to home for me because I need a little bit more motivation than Rad to keep training. And Rad is his purpose in life is to be a great mover. My purpose in life is just to dominate and achieve my goals. And exercise to me is more of a tool. It's more of a vehicle to help me perform at my best. I don't wake up every day just gagging to get to the gym to exercise, believe it or not. And it's never been that way for me. I was more into team sports than the personal pursuit of movement mastery. And so, to get flexible for me was quite a hard thing to find motivation for. And that's really my biggest insight from today's show and today's discussion is why you should set benchmark movements as opposed to just stretching the hamstrings. Because I tried to do that for a decade and it got me nowhere. Whereas the moment we introduced calisthenics and then saw a need to be able to do the pancake or the middle splits or a back bridge, it created these benchmark skills that are not only tangible, more tangible, I believe, than, measuring joint angles, which, no one really enjoys doing. You can easily get into a pancake, take a photo of yourself and go, okay, that's where I'm at right now. And at least I found that more tangible. But it also gives you this, more deeply rooted intrinsic driver to achieve. You want to achieve this skill now as opposed to I just want more length in my hamstrings. So that really, to me, is the essence of today's discussion. I find that it ignites my motivation more to stretch when I'm striving for a skill as opposed to the length of a tendon.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's it's funny when I reflect back to what got me started on flexibility. It was number one, and I was so clear in my mind. I wanted to be able to do the middle splits. That was it. I'm 42 now. I can't remember if I was 36 or 37. I think I was 30. I was just turning 37, and I was really unhappy that I'd been, I'd learnt martial arts for the better part of my adult life, like 13 years. And I couldn't do the middle splits. And I had done what I thought was a lot of flexibility training, a lot of stretching, and I wasn't close. I was, probably...
Why did you want to do the middle splits? I'm curious to drill down on that. Is it because of
Because it was a benchmark. Yeah, exactly. Van Damme...
Do you think Van Damme popularised the middle splits?
For sure. At least in my generation, in our generation, for sure. For sure, like if you grew up in the 80s and you were a boy and you were into action movies, you watched Van Damme.
You watched Bloodsport and saw him tied up between two
Yeah, and
coconut trees. And
but it's a benchmark. I like to me it was just something that I guess I'd always wanted to be able to do, and I never could. And
actually, I think it was Kickboxer.
It was Kickboxer.
It was. Yeah.
Bloodsport was the one where they go to see him in his hotel room in the morning.
Yeah,
and he's meditating on the
right.
two seats.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it, and it was a motivator for me. I just thought, this is a benchmark. I'm going to get it. I'm going to do it. And that was, I thought to myself, I want to get this first, and then I'll start looking at other flexibility. And so I really, doubled down on developing those middle splits. And when I made the decision that I was going to get there, and we created the programs that we've got, which was all about creating a structured approach. It was all about having this is what I'm going to do. Like, what the biggest breakthrough? I remember when we said this, when we acknowledged this, we said the biggest thing that we changed was that we started treating flexibility as a workout, just like strength training or like cardio or like skill training, not like I might do some stretching if I've got some time, which is always what it was before.
Yeah, 100%.
For someone who's too young to have watched any Van Damme movies, worth going back to Bloodsport /
Oh my
Coconut
God,
one?
they're
or,
cult classics.
Yeah.
Well, it's a cult
Is it one of those
classic.
ones where you watch, like, you look back at it and you're like, "Ooh, this didn't date so well," or is it a?
Yeah, a little bit. But the
Nah,
fight scenes are still pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, the martial artists are amazing, and there's you've got to, like, if you're going to watch those old 80s movies, you've got to take them with a grain of salt.
So I've just started doing a bit more sort of splits training. I feel like, maybe that's the motivation I need.
Yeah.
It's just,
You know what's funny? Talking about pop culture, I've heard people say things like Richard said it the other day, for example. He said that he watched Blade Runner for the first time, the first Blade Runner, and he said he found it so boring, and he said he didn't understand the hype. And I said, man, I totally get that, but the reason why you found it boring is because so much sci-fi was based on Blade Runner. That was groundbreaking when it came out. I've heard people say the same thing about Aliens. I've heard people that were in their 20s that I said, have you seen Aliens? I said, no, and I watched it with them, and they're like, man, that's not that good. And I'm like,
mate, I've rewatched Aliens twice in the last year.
Yeah.
Forcing Kalisha to sit through it. I practically had to hold her head at the television and go,
but
watch this, don't close your eyes.
millennials don't get it. So I don't know. Maybe if you watch Bloodsport.
I just recently watched the first Matrix, and I remember just being so blown away when it first came out as a small child. And then I was just watching it like, whoa,
This is
that
dated.
CGI is just
Yeah.
not how I remember it.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
anyway, onwards.
back to the middle splits. Okay, so the benchmarks for us, and it's interesting because
Can I just say, just quickly, I'm going to give a quick shout out here because we should do this stuff, and I've got a friend. We've got a...
you got a friend?
I've got a friend.
Hey.
Don't be-
I've got a friend
You're
who's got a
kidding.
You did it.
podcast.
Yeah.
We've got a friend who actually, Greg Kinney,
Yeah.
who used to be
Yeah.
a member here. Him and his buddy, they actually have a podcast where the entire podcast is every week they rewatch an 80s movie, an 80s nostalgic movie, and they see how it stacks up to modern times. It's called Double Impact. So if you're interested in the 80s movies, check it out. It's really funny. They have a really funny take on it. So go and search for the Double Impact podcast. There's a little shout out for you, Greg.
There you go, Greg. Clearly, Rad and I have quite different drivers for our stretching practice, and I would like to without a doubt, and we're both fortunate enough to have been in the fitness game for quite some time now. For me, I'm approaching almost 2 decades, I guess 16 years, working as a full-time personal trainer in the industry. Rad had a break for a while in the army, but he's back and spanned the same time span. Richie's been going for quite some time too. Phil's been in the industry for a while. We definitely didn't get a good result doing it the old way, and we get incredible results now. And you would argue probably there's not many gyms that you walk into and see as many men doing such good flexibility work, right?
I have not walked into any other gym that's done that, but I'm sure they're out there. But it's
I don't want to yank the chain too much because Phil doesn't like yanking chains, but whereas Rad and I do.
Chain yankers.
Yeah, chain yankers. But I would love to know from a physio standpoint what you think might be occurring when we train for something like the pancake as opposed to just compartmentalizing a tight muscle and going, okay, let's try and strengthen that. What do you think on a physiological level is the benefit of doing that, if any?
I think physiological level is we can kind of put aside, because the bigger factor here I think is psychological.
Yeah.
Like so much about staying engaged in your exercise, unless you're a robot like Rad, is really finding some joy or satisfaction in some outcomes that are satisfying to the brain. And I think having a goal, a movement-based goal, just makes things so much easier, where you can work towards that. Whereas if it's the same thing why people get excited about doing big squats or deadlifts. That was my phone dropping down. Don't worry about it.
I thought it might have been my son's transformer. We had a meltdown at home this morning because we couldn't find his transformer. Keep going.
Same reason why it's much more satisfying to do a 100-kilo back squat than it is to record like a certain reading on a knee extension dynamometer. Like it's working on the the brain's sort of pursuit of things that are cool, basically.
I think that's a really good way of talking about it, because we see that all the time in the gym, where people come in and they really have such a disconnect from where they are and what their body needs, but they just want to lift with a barbell. They just want to get under that barbell. People get it took me a while to realize how motivating it was, which is why we changed the way that we do the program at Unity Gym, because some people they just they see that barbell as such a thing to strive for, and they've never known how to use it, and they really just want to get under it and do some squats or some deadlifts.
Becoming like the identity
was it from Pavel? Who was it? Who quoted?
No. It's Mark Rippetoe.
Mark Rippetoe. Yeah. What do you know?
I'll pull it up. I love it. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it's pursuing things that where you have that identity of hey, I'm a person who can do this and can do that. Whereas when you're first into a gym, or you're first coming into flexibility, you feel like a bit of a fraud. That was my experience going into gyms and just putting headphones on, trying to avoid eye contact, but trying to watch what other people are doing. It's just kind of you want to feel like that person who's able to really progress and become a barbell guy or a
100%.
mover.
Yeah, 100%. Now,
I've got the quote. If you want to hear it.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
So this isn't the one that you wanted, but I love this one. It's really short. Strong people are harder to kill than weak people, and more useful in general.
Which I agree with 100%.
But this is the one, and bear in mind, this is a quote. We didn't say this, so he does say the word man. We didn't say this.
This book was written a long time ago.
He's
probably very sexist. We don't know.
Okay, let's replace the word man with person anyway. A weak person is not as happy as that same person would be if they were strong. This reality is offensive to some people who would like the intellectual or spiritual to take precedence. It is instructive to see what happens to these very people as their squat strength goes up.
And it is so true.
I've seen it.
It is
so many
true.
times. I can testify myself.
There is very little that's as rewarding as watching your strength go up or watching your flexibility increase. It really is a liberating experience for anybody.
Yeah, coming from a background of playing a sport at a high level, I felt such diminishing returns, and really hard to tell if I was getting better or worse the longer I spent, in this sport. And then you turn up to a gym and it's ooh, I am objectively stronger than I was, the last time I came in and did this session. I think, I'm starting to just get the beginnings of that with, I'm starting to do a whole lot more middle splits and front splits training in the last few weeks. And it's just you start to be I was nowhere near reaching across 2 tiles on the gym floor, and now I'm kind of getting there, and it feels satisfying, and it drives you to turn up more instead of kind of those old school stretch sort of things where it's just a
100%.
I am here to
routine.
stretch,
Just trying to do a routine. Yeah, that's right.
And that's just to bring in the kind of physio perspective. It's become a real shift, I think, recently in physio land, where it used to just sort of the kind of classic thing with the physio is that people turn up, get some exercises, and never do them because they don't engage and they don't identify with the exercise and they don't understand why they're doing it. But it's much more shifting towards kind of pursuit of you've got to align the rehab exercise with a pursuit of goals, and if you can make it engaging and exciting and give them some other sort of mentally satisfying reason to do the exercises, then you're going to get better results, because the biggest thing is consistency and people actually doing the work. So something like this where we're using these gymnastic style movements, you're taking with the middle splits, you're working on your adductors, but you're doing it in a way that's exciting and engaging and fun.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm really glad. I'm really happy to hear you say that because, and this is why I love Phil so much because he always validates our arguments. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. The reason I appreciate Phil's insight so much is because he looks at physiotherapy from a very modern standpoint, which is that he really takes into consideration what's going on a neurological and psychological level. And not many old school physios do that. And I think that this is more important than ever now, especially when considering that, flexibility is all about breaking down or retraining the brain's inhibitors. I like to say, and I don't know where I heard this, but I maybe I didn't, maybe I made it up, which I'll claim, I'll take it. You're already flexible. You just need to convince your brain of that again. Everyone's born flexible. And you over a lifetime of inhibition and restriction of movement, if you don't use it, you lose it, and then your brain starts to get very protective of how you can move your body. And then when we make the decision in middle age that we want to regain our flexibility, it's about retraining the brain. The tendons will already go there, but most likely they will not. They will. You'll be vulnerable in that position, and so the brain says, "No, I'm not going to do that."
Yeah, less about the tendons in this one. It's more about the muscle.
Sorry,
fibers
the muscles. Yeah, that's right. Yep, the muscle fibers don't. It's and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very rare that they lose their elasticity. Unless you're when would a muscle body not be able to stretch and relax if it's had an injury or a tear in the scar tissue?
Yeah, so the way that kind of what we're looking at here is how the way that muscle fibers work, where you have kind of your mid-range where we're sort of kind of comfortable in, and that when you contract, you shorten the muscle, and when you stretch, and eccentrically load, you lengthen the muscle. But if you have a tear, and have some, scar tissue that's there, that can, just stop it at that particular spot, which may limit you, but you still have plenty of other muscle fibers that are able to do that sort of job. So yeah, it does, with flexibility, a lot of it is that more neurological side of things, where it's just
and a lot of people, sorry to cut you off, I hear this a lot, and that's why it's on topic. A lot of people will say you can't get flexible after a certain age. Why do people feel like that? Why is there a notion that once you hit the age of 40 or something, that's it? Your muscles don't.
Probably because most people don't try, and most people don't take a systematic approach to it.
Yep.
I'd say that's probably why. I don't know.
So
I haven't seen any.
Theoretically, there's no literature that suggests that a 50-year-old body the fibers will lengthen less than a 30-year-old.
Not something
body.
I can currently comment on. There's tens of thousands of papers out there in the world, and I haven't read every single one of them. But
Phil,
certainly.
Really?
God damn it, Phil. Yeah.
It's certainly something I'll look into more. But there's nothing that I know of.
Yeah.
Neurologically as to why.
Yeah.
Unless you have, some conditions
the
with
reason why I
contractors
bring it up is because you get it all the time. People comment. They just throw these outlandish comments like, you can't get, I'm 50, I can't get flexible again, or this or that. And I believe personally that it's just the longer you neglect the body, the harder it is to break down that brain's inhibitor, the restriction. And so it takes a little bit more dedication and maybe a little bit more time. But, I think that to bring it back onto topic, We've chosen, for instance, in our mobility masterclass, 3 or 4 benchmark movements.
4. Excuse me. 4. We've got the middle splits, the front splits, the pike or pancake, and the back bridge.
Yeah, and the reason why, and we won't go too deep into this because I want to save this for tomorrow's show, which is why we've chosen those movements and what they benefit, but. They not only are they a benchmark that we can assess on a regular basis, but they also carry over to almost everything that we're trying to do in the gym. They have a really, really solid carryover, and it kind of with the back bridge in there, which takes the shoulders into full flexion. Am I right? Yeah, full flexion and thoracic extension. Then it sort of covers the whole body.
Well, it's probably. Important to point out that we didn't come up with this. We're really just borrowing it from gymnastics. Gymnastics, those are the main movements that you work on in gymnastics. You work on the middle splits, front splits, pike and back bridge, because those are the positions that they really are the positions that your body needs to go into an extreme fold into to be able to do anything that they do in gymnastics. Anything is a combination of those 4 movements, really.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you want to do a press or a stalder press or anything like that, it's a pike that you need, and you also need the middle splits when you come up. If you want to do nice cartwheels or anything where your legs are opening up, you need to be able to do the middle splits. And if you want to do any kind of acrobatics at all, you need to be able to do a back bridge. And if you can't do any of those positions, then when you try to flip or do something explosive, that's when you're going to get those tears, you know?
Yeah.
So it just made sense that, you know, and that's what we do in the UMS. And the whole UMS is about us looking at what other systems that have gone very far down the road of figuring out what the best way to do for their system is, and we're taking the strengths of that or the parts that we need and putting it into what it is that we do. And that's what we've done with weightlifting, with gymnastics, with little bits of martial arts, dance, yoga, you know, all of it.
Yeah, cool. I think that the big insight is for this show, and the message that I really want people to take home is what Phil said, which is that, you know, exercise is very much, there's a very strong psychological element to exercise. You know, you need to find something, and this is something that we've like really steered the UMS program into the direction of, because we ourselves started to lose motivation as we hit our late 30s and 40s. We just didn't have the drive. You know, usually people get into exercise in their 20s to, or gym exercise to look good, because there's that physiological driver that you want to appeal to your possible mate, you know. And that's a very strong physiological driver. The other reason is for athletic performance, because you're involved in sport and things like that. And that's kind of the path that you went down. I had a bit of both. But as you get on a little bit, those drivers tend to, you know, the path of an athlete is that you start
Just
off
to be
as
clear, I do also want to appeal to, you know,
other people.
to
Yeah.
not just
Absolutely.
a sport physio.
Well,
robot.
I didn't want to put words in your mouth. I didn't want to put words in your mouth. But you know, you go. I heard our good friend Leroy Lobo, who Phil's worked with at the Giants. He's another great physio. Said, you know, the path of an athlete is usually that you're a teenager or a youth athlete, and then a lot of the time you become a professional athlete, and then you become a spectator. You know, or you go teenage youth spectator, or weekend warrior spectator, you know. But as you become that sort of that age group where you kind of either a battler who's getting injured all the time, or a spectator, it becomes less motivating to perform a sport at a high level at a sport, or to just rip yourself apart every day at the gym to look shredded. You know, you need something else. You need to find a new motivator, and that's at least what we found. And I believe firmly. Sorry to continue here. I actually believe that people should be doing this much earlier on in their training life, because we've spoken about this all the time. Like when you train for aesthetics alone or athletic performance alone. For a sport, you tend to sacrifice how your body feels and how it functions long term as a longevity point, because you just rip yourself apart no matter what to look shredded, or you absolutely destroy yourself to perform that one thing that you're trying to perform well at. You know, just often at the expense of other things. You know.
Well, you guys always make jokes about how I have a level of motivation that, you know, is almost robotic, but it's important to understand that I wasn't always like that, and I've actually only really had that for about 5 years. When I was in my 20s and early 30s, I wasn't even close to that. I was just like anybody else. And in the words of my martial arts teacher, I had very poor discipline, because my pattern was I would really go for it for about 3 weeks, and then I would fall off the wagon for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I would really go for it for a while. And I developed enough of a skill that I was on the upper end of ability and advancement in my own circle. But on the world stage, I was like an amateur compared to good martial artists, people that really went for it. And I recognized that, because you were telling me for decades the importance of strength training and why I needed to do it, but I had no desire to do it, because I only related strength training or weightlifting back then, I would think of it, to building muscle, and I had no desire to build muscle. It wasn't on my radar. I just didn't care about it. And it wasn't until I made the decision that I wanted to learn movement skills, that I wanted to start learning calisthenics, so like handstands or, you know, just movement skills, that I then very quickly realized that there was no chance I could do this without strength and without flexibility. And once I had that, once I understood that there was a very clear reason to train strength or to train flexibility, it became something that I was more motivated to do. And now the process for me, which is what I try to instill in other people, is that I have a goal, I have a skill or a movement or whatever it is that I want to do, and then the process is assessing what the weak links are, and it's either a lack of strength or a lack of flexibility or a combination of both in areas of the body, not always in the one area. And then I become obsessive at trying to fix that weak link. And that process has become something that's kept me motivated all the time. And then people get amazed at the things that I can do. And I think, well, I couldn't do any of that 5 years ago. It's not a long time, really, in the scheme of things that I've developed this level of strength and flexibility. It's coming in quite a short amount of time. And I did have an ability to coordinate movement in my body that was a lot higher than the average person due to martial arts. I think that's the biggest thing that I got was coordination and dexterity. But yeah, I think it's important to understand which is going back to the topic of this show, having a benchmark for flexibility. I recognize that doing the middle splits, doing a pancake, doing a back bridge would get me closer to my goals. So then I started working on achieving those benchmarks,
Yeah.
And I've made great progress, but I've still got further to go, which is why I'm still motivated to keep doing it,
Yeah. Well, I've certainly got a hell of a lot more flexible since we started to benchmark flexibility and write programs like the Mobility Masterclass and intertwine that into our daily practice. But there's something very powerful about having a series of movements, 4 movements that you can just test at any one time. One of them for me, which isn't included, is the low bridge, rotation to low bridge. That's a real indicator to me about how my flexibility is tracking in my body. Yeah. I can sit down into these movements at any point on my lounge room floor and go, ooh, geez, I'm neglecting my flexibility now. And I think that there's something very powerful in that, and I think that that's something that everyone should adopt. And that's where the name of this show comes. You should, I believe, be trying to achieve the splits, because just in doing so, you're going to be assessing yourself on a regular basis and going, how am I tracking, Yeah,
it's like Phil said, it's objective. You can see the progress.
Yeah, and it's bringing like an end goal where you can then learn to love the journey to get there, instead of just feeling like the drive to I should stretch because I feel like I should is so much different to like I want to achieve the splits and therefore I'm going to engage and enroll in that journey. So
100%.
It's just taking that thing that people generally feel guilty about and putting it towards like a pursuit of a goal. And I think that's just
100%.
Psychologically so much more satisfying.
100%.
And then once you've set that goal and you've undertaken that journey, detach yourself from the end result and focus on the process.
Yeah, because it takes a while.
Because it takes a while. And if you're attached to the end result, this is the next reason why most people fail with flexibility, because they don't see a tangible result quick enough and they go, stuff this, I'm not getting anywhere. And it's just not the case.
You can be like Lee Clements, love that. He says here in the comments, I want middle splits to model to older friends. It really is a case of use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Love
That's
it.
awesome, Lee.
And personal achievement.
And personal achievement.
Yeah,
Well done.
100%.
Well done.
Now, guys, tomorrow we're going to talk about what movements in the gym benefit from unlocking these key milestones, and that like things like squat, overhead press, press handstand, handstand, bench press, and martial arts as well. We got a lot of martial artists.
Martial arts, pole dancing,
surfing for me.
gymnastics, of course.
Surfing,
Back bridge to get that nice arch to the
100%.
after. Working on it.
Yeah, exactly. And
Almost
and
any sport, really.
pretty much,
But we'll talk it through. We'll be specific and we'll talk about how and why.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on Thursday we're going to we've got a really great discussion planned, which is really, I think, the missing link. The reason why a lot of people fail to achieve high levels of flexibility, it's got nothing to do with time. It's got to do with one thing that people don't understand about the body, and how when you lengthen a tendon or strengthen a tendon, it does not automatically give you the right of passage to increase the range of motion, the available range of motion in that tendon. There's one thing you have to do, muscle, sorry. There's one thing, there's one missing link there that needs to be done before you will actually be able to access the range of motion that you've increased. And I think this is a really, really big one. So that's tuned in for Thursday, and then Friday we got Physio Friday with Phil. We're going to be answering your questions. Get them in.
Get them in.
Get them in. Now, guys, just quickly before we end, I had a couple of people yesterday hit me up saying that they want to get the Mobility Masterclass. Now, I just want to say straight up, we're going to have a discussion later on today about whether we're going to do a flash sale with this program. So if you're thinking about buying the program, hold off at least until tomorrow. We'll make an announcement tomorrow if this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if that's if people want that program.
Well, I've had two people ask whether that's the right program. I've tagged you in one of the posts, and you never said anything. It's someone about martial arts, and I thought it'd be a good one to tune in for. They were asking, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry. They were asking about whether the loaded flexibility or the Mobility Masterclass is best, or the 18-minute stretching routine. It's a martial arts related question.
Yeah, it wasn't the one we mentioned yesterday.
No.
I'm pretty sure I answered that. I did say the Mobility Masterclass, hands down.
No, they just commented again.
Okay.
I think it was Nick. Just scroll down to this one here. Go up.
Yes.
Richard Blakely. No, that's the wrong person. You've gone too far. Nick Eddy. Down.
He's nutrition.
Here. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, that was about creatine. Sorry, guys. We'll come up with an answer tomorrow. But if we're going to do a flash sale for it, I don't want you guys paying full price for it. That's just unfair. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. That's
See you
it.
guys.
That's a wrap.
Yep. Bye.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.